And 4 over and out.
For our next speaker, we have Officer Clee Tillman, and he is coming to speak to you guys and answer any questions that you guys may have.
Hello, hello, how's everybody doing? They're good. You guys mind if I take my mask down so I can speak better? Thank you. Like I was introduced, my name is Clee Tillman. I am from the area. Got to give a shout out to my guy Jay Moore. He's my sound guy. I'll explain why he's here in a minute as well. But I've been a police officer for 15 years. I was in the military for 3 years. I've got over 18 years of experience in this field, okay? And so I got a couple slides. I'll explain some things. I'll answer whatever questions you guys have, but just giving a little background on myself. I have a YouTube channel where we discuss black and blue. It's called Black and Blue, being black and in the blue itself. And this is my sound guy, like I said, so it's gonna be uploaded on the YouTube channel. It's gonna be uploaded on LinkedIn. It's gonna be uploaded on Facebook channel as well, okay? I wanna thank Ms. Cabbage Stalk for inviting me out here to basically brief the panel, and we're gonna have a little fun and we're gonna learn something today, okay? For 15 years in law enforcement, total, 18 years total with military. I was in the Army. I was a parachute rigger. I used to jump out of planes a long time ago. Veteran, I'm a police academy graduate, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Move to that. Thank you. Proactive policing, okay? I just want to lay down a little bit of foundational work, okay? Proactive policing, what is it? What is it used for? And here's an example. The most common activities that modern police, they react to crime is what people think, or would they investigate and arrest focal points. Proactive policing, in my opinion, is community service. And getting to know, I'm from the community where I work. I'm involved in the schools. I used to coach Little League football for 7 years. I've worked at the Giant, which now Gold's Gym, before I became a police officer. So I think proactive policing is actually being involved in the community, getting to know who the community is. It's preventative maintenance, as I would say. It would be like getting your oil changed in your car before your car breaks down, okay? Sometimes it is reactive because there are a lot of crazy people out there as well. That's the traditional approach. It does not stop crime from occurring, because crime, no matter what you do, crime's gonna occur. It's just gonna happen. But proactive policing, it gains trust, it gains camaraderie, it gains all the important things that a lot of people don't really understand and think about or utilize. Police brutality, other than what's on here, can I get, who thinks they know what police brutality is, or what their idea of police brutality is? Any brave soul? Huh? Yeah.
It's basically just like police abusing their power and causing harm on somebody.
Police abusing their power and causing harm on somebody, I would totally agree. It would be excessive use of physical harm to someone. It would be excessive charging of crimes on someone. It would be overt use of anything imaginable that a reasonable person would not have to be subjected to. Okay? Most people think of police brutality as a police officer beating somebody up and putting them in the hospital for more than what they really had to do. Okay? Here's some examples. Unwarranted force by the law enforcement officer. Extreme misconduct as far as civil violence refers to the situation. Exercise undue excessive force on individuals or control over them. And I mean, there's more screening processes that are involved now in trying to hire police officers. So you actually have someone who wants to be in the community and wants to serve people and wants to help out. A lot of kids I run into ask, how do you interact with the police if you're pulled over, if a police officer walks up to you, things along those lines. I would always say, there's a couple slides ahead. There's a mere encounter, is what it's called. I'll give it plain terms. A mere encounter would be a casual conversation. Anyone know what a casual conversation is? Police officer walks up to you, says, hi, how are you doing? That's a mere encounter. Just getting to know you, just having a conversation. Reasonable suspicion is what most people think that a police encounter is once a police officer shows up. That's something totally different. Reasonable suspicion means a crime has occurred and the police officer has reasonable suspicion that you may be involved in it or you know something about it. So they stop you, they ask you a bunch of questions, they ask you for your name, they ask you for your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your parents, all that other good stuff, okay? Probable cause is what will be on the next slide. We don't have to go there yet, or one of the few slides down. Probable cause would be if they know, if there's an eyewitness or they saw you commit a crime or they know that, let's just say you ran a red light. You're the driver behind the car, you get pulled over, okay? That's probable cause to stop the car. If the car is stopped, the person who's driving that car has to identify themselves. It's a state law. You have to stop, you have to identify yourself. If not, you can be taken into custody and go in front of the judge. It's a long, big ordeal, okay? But things to do when you run into a police officer, you don't lie. If you feel like things aren't going properly, then you know, you guys being juveniles, you would request to speak to a parent or a guardian, okay? We would contact a parent or guardian. We would get that situation rectified best we can. You never run because, I mean, it's just a bad thing to run. Honestly, it makes you look guilty. It's not gonna work out in a good favor. Don't disrespect anyone. Always be polite, just like anyone else wants to be respected. You respect people, people will respect you back. It's like a two-way street, it's a mirror, okay? And I mean, there's other subtitles to go along. I'm not gonna read them all verbatim. And like I said before, the mere encounter would be police officer comes up to you in school, police officer comes up to you at the mall, police officer comes up to you at just out and about and just says, hi, how are you doing? You have the right to walk away? Yes, you do. You have the right not to speak? Yes, you do. You have the right to just give a cordial greeting? Absolutely. That's all it really is. Reasonable suspicion, do you have to identify yourself? Yes, you do. You have to give your name, you have to give your date of birth, and you can ask these questions to the police officer, and the police officer is obligated to answer those questions. And if it's probable cause, the highest level, yes, you have to identify yourself. Yes, a parent can be called. Yes, you can be taken into custody. And what I mean by taken into custody, handcuffs can be put on you and you can be taken away, okay? Anyone know what the amendments are? The main amendments that a lot of people like to contest. The Second Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment. The Second Amendment is people, the right to bear arms, basically. People have, there's a lot of questions, especially during the protests that were downtown, where open carry, people are allowed to carry. You're allowed to, once you're 18 and above, you can buy a firearm. You can buy a firearm without a license. You cannot conceal the firearm without a license unless you have a concealed carry permit. If you have a firearm, which most people use for home protection, it has to remain in the home or it can be taken to a range or a shooting range for shooting. But the gun has to remain, if it remains it has to remain in the trunk, and the bullets have to remain in a different location. You can't have one in the chamber ready to go. Normally I tell people to keep the gun in the trunk Keep the bullets in the glove compartment. They're separate. If you go to a range or something, that's fine. If you have a concealed carry, which you can't have until I think you're about 21 anyway, then yeah, I mean, you can conceal it in your coat or under your garments or so. 14th Amendment is citizenship. The 14th Amendment also is the amendment that deals with slavery to make everyone equal and just and give voting rights or so. And the 4th Amendment, this is unusual searches and seizures. This is the one that falls under seizure. It would be anyone that's taken into custody or arrested. A seizure would be, or search would be a search of a vehicle. Search would be a search of a home. In this case, search would be a search of a locker, a book bag, or anything like that. That's what's protected under the 4th Amendment. Most times, police officers will ask for consent or ask for a guardian for consent, or they would have to go about getting a search warrant. I know it's a lot to take in right now, but I mean, we're going over amendments. Next one, please. And that's just recruitment. I mean, a lot of people who don't want to get into the business of being a police officer don't understand the reasons of why being a police officer is so important. All right, being a police officer to me is important because I can help out specifically my mother. I can help out specifically my sisters, my nieces and nephews, my son. I can help my family out, period. Okay, I can help the public out. Get paid doing it. I don't work just traditional weeks. I don't work Monday through Friday. I work 12-hour days. We have 2 shifts, 7 to 7. That's it. Either 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. All overnight or all during the day. You get this, it's the best ticket in the world to see a lot of interesting things. You meet a lot of interesting people. It's a world of opportunity. It's not for everyone, but the pay is a lot better than what you may think. I know it may be up there. Anyone have any idea how much police officers make in the state of Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, this area specifically?
Like 80,000?
A little higher than that.
90,000?
Mm-hmm. On average, within 5 to 6 years. And that's with minimum requirement is a high school diploma, police academy training, and that's the basic minimum requirement. What does help is college. What does help also would be being a veteran, military, things along those lines. I know I kind of went over a lot of things very rapidly, very quickly, but I do understand that you guys had a lot of questions on police brutality as well. And I'm ready to dive into that, or I don't know exactly where your questions would be. So let me get a couple questions on exactly what police brutality or what you guys wanted to talk about.
How do you feel about like being in the system? I mean, being a police officer and like everybody say like I don't know how to say ACAB or like all cops are bad and stuff like that. When it happened to like George Floyd, like how did you feel about that?
That's a good question. How did I feel? Specifically, I was upset. I was upset on both sides of it because, for one, and our policy with the police department I'm with, the only time you do something around someone's neck is if you're applying deadly force. That means they tried to kill you or kill somebody else that was in that vicinity. So, of course, you would not kneel on someone's neck. You would not choke them out, especially for 9 minutes or more. Okay? How do I feel when people say all police are bad? I give the analogy that when you go to McDonald's and you get some French fries and you get one sour or one nasty French fry that's at the bottom of in the paper itself, and you eat that, are all the fries nasty? Or just that one? You're throwing that one out the window as you're driving along. The rest of them are pretty good to go. One bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch, and you just throw that bad apple away. My opinion is there, with any job, with any kind of relationship in whatever kind of lifestyle that you're living, there's always bad seeds. There's always a bad bunch. I don't think you can personally generalize one occupation based on one person's actions.
Have you ever faced discrimination, like personally against you in your work, in your line of work, of like non-POCs?
Have I faced discrimination from my employers?
Yeah.
Or
Like your colleagues, like non-people of color?
I can't quite honestly say yes or no, but I can give you an example. There's been times where I'm on a platoon or I'm working, I'm at the office. I'll kind of make it more applicable. I'm at the office, and if we all have to go to work and we all have to go secure a building, everyone's down, everyone's with it. We're taking care of that building. We're taking care of what needs to be done, okay? We're off duty, and I'm working with the same group of people. It's called a platoon, and everyone but me, because there's been platoons I was the only black guy on, I was the only, there might have been a Hispanic person, but normally it's predominantly white and it's just me. Would they go off on their weekend and have a cookout? Or would they go off on their weekend and be invited to a wedding that I wasn't aware of or invited to? That's happened a lot. And then I find out about it later, and it's kind of like I'm not one of the cool kids in the club, you know what I mean? So yeah, I can't say I've been discriminated against, but I've been intentionally left out. What's up?
Like, what have you done specifically, or that you hope to do specifically, like as a police officer, to change like the stereotypes around police officers with police brutality and like racial police brutality?
One is, like I say, I get out into schools and I know a lot of the kids. Most of the kids in high school now, where I'm at, I've coached. So I know them, I know their parents. I've had parents come up to me in the middle of a situation while I dealt with their child and say they're glad it was me who showed up because they knew me, they had my personal number, they knew my family. I try and be a good role model while I'm in the uniform to represent that not everyone, or there's trustworthy police officers out there, okay? What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
It was like, so like what can you do, or like more of, to take away that stereotype with police officers, not all of them are bad, and like with your colleagues and everyone that you work with too, like how do you like impact them as like an African American, and how do you like deal with, so like in any situation, like if there's any type of discrimination or any type of racial police brutality, like how do you like kind of teach your colleagues that you're working with that this is not okay?
So I'm a first level supervisor. So on my platoon, a lot of the patrol guys, they have to go through me before they go to our sergeant. That's the way it goes. It goes sergeant, corporal, my position, PFC, then patrolman for a platoon. So the patrolmen have to go through me. So if they're being overt, I shut them down. If they're going a little crazy on calls, because sometimes feelings and emotion and adrenaline does take over, I will admit that. I'm the buffer. I can shut that down very easily. I can let them know, I can pull them to the side, or if it's something that needs to be addressed immediately, I shut that down automatically. Another way that I would suggest change is recruitment. The best way to change an organism is to get inside that organism and change it yourself. That's part of the reasons why I had that up there, because during the protest, a lot of people, I was called every name in the book. While I stood the front line, I was standing the front line for about 6 hours or so. I forget how long it was. Holding the battle shield, holding the baton, just like that, right in front of the Capitol on the day everything just went chaotic. I was called every name in the book. I was thrown. A jar of pickles was thrown at me. I blocked it with the shield. A lot of things happened that day. And then when things started to calm down, more black people than white people came up to me and asked me, how could I be Uncle Tom? How could I stand up here and not be on the opposite side and fight the fight with them? And having the conversation, it's kind of like, you need me there. You need me, and you need more people who look like me there, just so you can understand a tradition that's been going on for centuries is not going to change in a day. It's something that's going to have to be a generational change. And in order to be a generational change, new blood's going to have to come in. And new blood, the more new blood comes in, the more people will start listening to, instead of, let's just say me, for example, me, one voice yelling at a whole group of people is not going to be as effective as an entire room of people yelling at a group of people. Does that make sense? So yeah, you invoke change from within, and that's why I have up there that it's very easy to start applying. It's not for everyone. People do get weaned out, but I think it's more appropriate for more people, black, brown people, to start applying for jobs that they feel that they either don't want or are scared of.
So like, I feel like you want to be a police officer. What are some steps you can take before turning 21? Because I know the minimum age is 21. So what are some steps that you think you should take before that age?
What I would do, this is what I told some of my son's friends, and if I could go back, I would do it differently. I would, if I'd play athletics. I wrestled in high school, I played football, I did track also. I would be athletics, or if sports aren't my thing, I would definitely be in some sort of report writing, English class, and arithmetic. Honestly, because it gets your brain acclimated to thinking differently and getting your thoughts out articulatable, okay? Then, me personally, I would enlist in some branch of the military and go off as a reservist and let them pay for college. Let the military pay for college. That way, at the end of 4 years, you have a bachelor degree, and I would say business administration, I would say any political science, something. I would do, get a 4-year degree, a bachelor degree, paid for by the military while being a reservist, and then by the time you get out, you'd have an honorable discharge from the military and a bachelor's degree, and no one can stop you from anything because you'd have the world right at your fingertips. And then immediately, you'd be about, what, 22, 23, maybe 21-ish at the time, depending. Started applying for academy and pick up security jobs as well. The more experience that you get in dealing with people and having to talk to people, the better you are. I think that's really what our job is. My job is I talk to people. I find ways to understand what they've been through, where they're going through, find ways to talk to them. Most people, honestly, on calls just want to vent. So if you learn how to talk to people and understand where they're coming from, you're already ahead of the game.
So what about, what do you think about an associate's degree? Or do you think a 4-year degree would be better?
I'm just saying the example I would do. Right here?
Quick question. We're talking about how to carry your weapon. You said you have to have the bullets and the guns separate. Is there a particular reason why that is?
Yes, because like I was saying, Pennsylvania is a open carry state. So once you get a weapon, you can carry it holding it. You legally can. Are you going to get approached or someone going to call the police on you? Yes, they are. But legally you can. If you put it inside the car, it's automatically concealed. If you don't have a concealed carry permit, you cannot carry it that way. So you would have to take the bullet, the one in the chamber, and whichever you have in the mag.
Before turning 21, because I know the minimum age is 21. So what are some steps that you think you should take before that age?
We're
We're talking about how to carry your weapon. You said you have to have the bullets and the guns separate. Is there a particular reason why that is?
Yes, because like I was saying, Pennsylvania is a open carry state. So once you get a weapon, you can carry it holding it. You legally can. Are you going to get approached or someone going to call the police on you? Yes, they are. But legally you can. If you put it inside the car, it's automatically concealed. If you don't have a concealed carry permit, you cannot carry it that way. So you would have to take the bullet, the one in the chamber, and whichever you have in the magazine out. And I would suggest putting that in the glove compartment while putting the actual gun or weapon in the trunk. So that way, if some accident would happen, you get pulled over. At least, the magazine is visible, but the actual gun is, and a mistake won't happen. Make sense?
You mean mistake for the police to shoot?
Mistake for anyone. Let's just say it's your gun, you know it's in there. Someone borrows your car to go to the store, they get pulled over, they don't know it's in there, and they're reaching, and for the registration, the police officer sees them reaching, bad things can happen. It was innocent on the driver's part because they didn't know it was there. It was innocent on the police officer's part because they're in fear for their life and danger. So it's a mistake that could happen that didn't need to happen. Make sense? Anything right here in the back.
What are your opinions about regular people having guns on gun control in general?
My opinion on gun control, regular people having it, I think, I don't think it should be readily accessible for everyone. I think that it should be regulated to the point where classes should be administered and training should be administered as well. Whereas as far as if you would have to do a certain amount of hours on a range so you can be proficient. There's a lot of people that I know that are gun owners that live here in the state of Pennsylvania, here in Central PA, that don't know how to use their gun. And they're walking around, they got a loaded gun, and they're doing this kind of stuff at the door, and none of that's safe. I tell them all the time, you never point your gun at anything you don't want to leave this earth. So you should take classes on training on how to carry it.
adding on to that, like, I think there's like controversy between like having you get a gun, taking a test to see if you're like mentally allowed to, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like, do you agree with that, or do you think that's like going against people's?
No, I totally agree with that because I deal with a lot of people with mental illnesses, and some people don't get diagnosed with mental illnesses until after the fact they've already owned guns or weapons. Okay, so if they should have to take a competency test first, then that would help out the public, keep everyone safe. That would make my job easy because to go in, it's a dangerous day to take away someone's gun, especially if they're a gun person themselves, to take their guns away. So if they're mentally ill and they shouldn't have the right to carry, then I think that should be nullified right there at the root.
So you mentioned you had a son. So how comfortable, like, I don't know how old your son is, but let's say he's 17, 16, and then he gets pulled over by the police. Like, how comfortable do you feel in that situation as like a father, like that your son will be okay, like with the police?
I am terrified every day. I have a son who's 16 and I have another son who's 22. And I've talked to them at length throughout their entire life on appropriate actions to take, on how to be, being polite and respectful is like it's forefront, honestly. How to convey yourself, and still, as much as I know that they would mean well, would they be nervous in the situation? Yes. As much as I know that the police officer, I would hope that he means well, there's still a lot of bad apples in the bunch. I can only speak for my department because I know them personally. I can't speak for other departments. So yes, I get nervous. And yes, I tell them, even my 22-year-old, the adult, I tell him, if you have that opportunity in that moment, if you get pulled over, have an interaction, to call me and put me on speaker, and I can guide both of them through it because I live it.
What do you think, like, I'm sorry. Also, what do you think, like, the people or the bad apples in the police department, where do you think, like, that all stems from? Like, especially if you're working in, like, a department of police, like, you come across so many people. So, like, where do you think all the issues stem from?
That's a blanket statement. Different people are different things. Different people have different aggressing features. Some people I know became police officers because they want to drive cars real fast. Some people want to help people. Some people just love the fact that you can legally get into a fight. It stems from multiple different reasons. Basically, I would think, and I know it was going on when I was applying. I know it was going on years before I started. They do a way more of an extensive background check to actually weed out the officers that are just in it for the thrill, or the officers that just are in it to hurt people, as opposed to the ones that actually want to help society. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
So like on average, how many times would you say as a police officer you've been in a position where you actually like feared for your life?
On average, technically every day, because you never know. There's been death threats. There's been people who've expressed themselves a lot. So realistically, every day. But I think to the play of your question, how many situations have I been in that were fearful that I thought it was going to be a bad day? Was when I was standing at the protest for 6 hours. I thought that was going to be a bad day. There's been at least 3 or 4 separate incidents in the course of my career. One of them was when I first started in Likens. I had to go to a bar fight. Likens is Upper Dauphin County. It's past Halifax. It's almost in Schuylkill County, for those of you that don't know. I had to go to a bar fight. I was the only officer working in a 25-mile radius. So I had to go to this bar fight, and I'm mid-20s, good shape, played semi-pro football at the time, but I can't take on a whole bar full of people. And I thought that was going to be a bad day. But there's at least 3 or 4 times that pop out of my head that I think was going to be very dangerous. Back here in the back.
So what do you think, so say I get pulled over by one of like those bad cops, or I get approached by one of them, how should I handle the situation?
If you're pulled over, 10 and 2. Keep your hands visible. The police officer is going to ask you for 3 things: your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance card. I know it's a digital world, and a lot of people don't carry their driver's license on them anymore. A lot of people carry it on their phone. I would suggest keeping your driver's license on you because it makes life easy for everyone. Registration's already in the car. Provide that, keep that real accessible in the glove compartment. Insurance is the same thing because most people keep that on their phone now. They don't have the card. I would say go through the extra effort on printing the card out, having it readily available. They're gonna ask for that. They're gonna ask you a couple questions on, were you aware that you ran the red light or stop sign or whatever it was? No, I wasn't. Yes, I was. Just be honest. Just be honest. No, I'm sorry, officer. I really didn't know I ran the stop sign. I'm trying to get from point A to point B for whatever reason. Here's the documents you asked for. Keep the hands right here. You should be good.
How far does honesty take you?
Honesty takes you, for the average police officer, it'll take you very far. If you, yes, officer, I knew I ran the red light. However, I'm trying to get to the hospital because I'm having a family emergency. I'm sorry, but that's the honest truth. For me, and I can speak for me, I can't speak for everyone else, I'm gonna take you at face value because if you're gonna lie on your family, then I believe in karma, okay? So I'm like, okay, all right, let me do what I have to do. I still have to do my checks. I'll go back here, and I normally tell you, I was like, all right, I have your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. I'm gonna take you at face value, okay? If you ran the red light, you didn't cause an accident or anything like that, no one got hurt, I'm making everything, my checks, get the paperwork back to you, and you're on your way.
So like, especially saying like if you deal with situations that are very stressful or ones that maybe are like disturbing or getting death threats and whatnot, discrimination, how do you deal with that? Like how does that mess with you?
We have a psychologist with our department. I don't want to say his name because he doesn't know I'm doing this, but we have a local guy that we go to who comes by, and we have mental health checks. For one, to get the job, you have to go through a mental health eval. And then through all the trauma that we see, there's a lot of trauma. You don't have to, it's voluntary, but you unload on the mental health personnel, the counselor, and they provide you the assistance that you may need. I'm sorry.
What's your opinion on people saying, or like defund the police situation?
My opinion on it, it's not gonna happen. My opinion, I think it's just an uprising of people being upset with the outcome of what the police are, but let's just say hypothetically you defund the police, what do you have? Seriously, I mean, you're gonna have anarchy, you're gonna have chaos. You have a few, I forget who asked, a few bad apples in a bunch that make the whole department look bad, but defunding the police department is total anarchy. And no state, no nation's gonna have that. So in my opinion, I think it's all rhetoric right now, and it'll pass by, and there'll be a reshaping of the police department, yes, but defunding it itself, it's not gonna happen.
Is there ever times where you feel like you have to start using a black man over using a police officer?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
She said, was there any time that you had to put being a black man over being a police officer?
Any times I had to put being a black man over being a police officer itself? Every day, because I'm a human being first. I'm a black man first. I'll give you another story. I went to the wine and spirits store one day on an alarm in uniform. I'm working as a supervisor. I show up in uniform. Somebody hit the silent panic alarm, which happens all the time, believe it or not. I go in there, I do my checks. The clerk in there, he says, "I'm sorry, officer, I hit that by accident. Everything's good. Get his name, get all the information I need," okay? I said, ironically, I'm off in like another hour. I'm gonna swing by here on my way home, pick up what I need, and I'm gonna go home. I come back, I'm in jeans, I'm in Timbs, I'm in a hoodie, and I recognize him. I'm saying, "Hey, I'm here for that bottle." He had no idea who I was. Lining people in front of me, lining people behind me. I used my credit card to buy the items. No one else had to be ID'd, I had to be ID'd. And I asked him, why am I being ID'd when I know that this person paid cash, this person paid credit card, a couple people were in line, paid the same methods as I did. He said, well, we ID all the patrons. I'm like, no, you don't. And I know that for a fact because I'm in here working to make sure that you guys are fine. He was like, no, how would you know that? Long story short, it didn't hit him until at least a couple sentences in that I was the same guy who came and checked his alarm. So, I mean, it hits me in the face all the time. Walking out of here, this is predominantly how I dress most of the time. Most people who don't know me don't know I'm a police officer. That answer your question?
So like, let's say you were applying to be a police officer, what are some automatic like disqualifiers that like won't get you the job?
Won't get the job is having a felony. Some misdemeanors won't get you the job. Social media pages that have been very negative that won't get you the job. They do an extensive background check. Lying on the polygraph, the lie detector test. You take a lie detector test. If you get caught lying on that, you're automatically disqualified. Excessive speeding tickets on your driving record. Juvenile criminal history record as well. There's a myth, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, that if you get arrested as a juvenile, once you become an adult, it goes away, it's wiped clean. That is not true. Not true at all. Your juvenile criminal history can be used against you as an adult, especially if you're 18 or 19 and it's been repetitive. So you don't, that doesn't automatically get expunged. Those are the main things I can think of off the top. I'm pretty sure there's others, but those are usually the main. Mental illnesses, certain mental illnesses won't get hired, of course. Drug use, things along those lines.
Did I hear you correctly? You said speeding tickets will get you eliminated?
So if you have a high amount of speeding tickets, yes. Let's say, have you ever seen your driving record before?
I've never had a speeding.
Regardless, let's just, that's actually kind of normal, believe it or not. A page and a half, that's actually in the norm. 2 pages, yeah, it's kind of pushing it. If you have like 5 pages or more or something like that's crazy like that, yeah, you're a habitual offender. You're not gonna, more than likely, you're not gonna get the job.
Thank you.
What do you think was the most important thing you learned by being a cop so far? Like, what's like something you're definitely gonna take with you?
Something I'm definitely gonna take is self-awareness and self-improvement, because the more I improve myself, the better a police officer I am, because the more confidence and the more self-aware I have of myself. That makes sense? I teach that for my sons. I teach them to be, if you're good to people, people will be good to you. If you can articulate yourself and get your point across, most people will listen, and most people just want to be heard and understood. And that's one thing I learned probably within the past 5 years or so.
Kind of going back to like the three-time police situation, do you feel like in your training, you have enough training to deal with mental health issues? That's kind of, so you feel like all police officers are prepared for?
Most of them, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, we go through ICAT, which I forget what the acronym stands for, and we go through CIT training as well. With a co-responder with crisis, they work hand in hand with us in order to actually identify what a lot of mental illnesses are and how to deal with them, as opposed to the brute force of the old way where you're not listening. If you're dealing with someone who's autistic, you're not listening, come with me, and they start fighting back. Now you know why they're fighting back. They're not actually fighting, they're actually reacting to a situation that you're not really aware of until you know what they're diagnosed with.
How long is police academy?
The police academy is 6 months, Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, I don't know, 8 to 6, I believe, I don't remember the hours. Or there's a part-time academy that meets every weekend, and a couple days of the weekend. It takes a year to get through that one.
Do you think it's like a reasonable amount of time?
Yes, I do, because especially if you go the route that I suggested, that's the way. If I could go back in time, that's the way I would do it. Is going military, reservist, and college. You're in school 8 to 10 hours a day. You get field training, you go to the range, you do defensive tactics. You're in there for 6 months, Monday. That's your life. That's what you do. And most of, I know with Pennsylvania State Police, they live there. With municipal, we go home. But other than that, like you don't have time, when you go home, you don't have time to do anything except maybe change your clothes and sleep. You're studying constantly. You have a lot of homework. You have a lot of you have multiple instructors. There's a lot that goes in with it.
Do you have any like lessons or like I guess things about life that you specifically learned from being a police officer or perspectives of being a police officer?
Basically, what I said is self-awareness and learning how to treat people. Treating people, listening to people, and articulation goes a long way.
In your platoon or your department, do they respond to certain areas differently?
Do they respond to certain areas? I'm sorry?
Differently. Like let's say,
Yes.
I don't know where you cover, but like a part that's known to be like.
Yes. I do so myself. Just off a reputation, let alone white, black, Jewish, indifferent, any of that. $1 million homes, it has suburban homes, it has apartments, it has trailer homes, it has a little bit of everything. So no, predominantly I'm gonna be treated, hello sir, I'm sorry the alarm went off, do you mind checking the house out? Can I make you a cup of coffee while you're in here checking the house? No sir, I'm fine. Okay, I have all the documents you need right here, do whatever you need to do, have a good day, bam. It's normally that pleasant. 9 times out of 10 it's that pleasant, not all the time, but most of the time. Other times I may go to one of our high crime areas where we have a seedy hotel where a lot of prostitutes and homeless people like to stay. They 9 times out of 10 are gonna challenge us. Just off of experience. My 15 years, I can almost call it wherever we get dispatched to, I can almost see if it's gonna be a decent call or a bad call.
And how do you think like it like affects like the way, more so like how you're like treating people, like versus like, let's say a white person, a black person did like the exact same thing, like a speeding type of thing. Like, do you think like because of the color of someone's skin, it is being like treated differently?
I can't speak for all because I have no idea what goes in the heads of a lot of other officers. I'd like to believe that everyone's speeding history is looked at, and if they're a habitual offender, then they get judged based on that. And if it's their first time and they're being honest, then they get judged based on that. I can speak to what I do. I can't speak to what other people do.
But could you like explain like the hiring process, like how does everything like work as far as becoming a police officer?
The hiring process itself?
Because like we had like on our career day, people come in and they said that like you got hired, and then once it's like they paid for the police academy, and like it sounded like you said something different.
Okay, so there's multiple ways on going through the police academy. If you decide to go through, I know FBI agents, CIA, their academies teach them. Pennsylvania State Police troopers, you get hired by them first, then they put you through the academy. With municipal, it could go either way. That department, which very rarely, it's going back to that. They can hire you and pay for you to go through the academy. You get paid to go, you'll be a paid student, okay? Or you can go the way that I went, because I didn't get picked up by a department, I paid my way through. That was called pre-service. And so I basically was a college student paying my way through the police academy. And the police academies pass-fail. If you fail 2 tests throughout that entire 6-month process, you're allowed to sign up for the next class again. And if you fail that class, then you're done. So they're strict that way. Once you get through the academy, if a department hasn't picked you up, there's no guarantee a department will pick you up, okay? But you go through the application process like you would any other job, and once you make it through the application process would be testing as far as English comprehension, mathematics, sentence structure, and essay writing. And then there's also a physical fitness test where I know it's changed since I did it, but it was push-ups. No, it wasn't. It was bench press, pull-ups, sit-ups, a 300-meter sprint, and a 1.5 mile run, all timed. And if you didn't make the time, you're done. So once you go through those tests and you get picked up by a department, then you go through what's called a FTO process, which is a field training officer process. And you could be on that from any time from 6 months to a year. And you're on a probationary period because if you don't work out, Pennsylvania's an at-will state. If you're on a probationary period, they can terminate you because you're not showing proficiency. Okay, that's basically the entry level. It goes beyond that, but that's basically what the entry level is.
What about like, what's the polygraph test like?
The polygraph, you sit in a big chair, looks like a big throne. It has sensors on it, your arms hang. They have sensors around your chest and your stomach. There's a guy sitting behind you with a computer monitor that measures your heart rate, your breathing rate, and the amount of sweat coming out of your pores. And so your mouth may lie, but your body doesn't. So it can monitor if you're knowingly telling a lie. If you say your name is John and you're sitting there in the chair, then your heart rate's going to spike for that moment. Your breathing's going to change, and your pores, however they monitor.
Benefits of like a regular police officer and like an FBI agent. Like, is there different treatments and benefits that you would get from the two?
As in what?
Like, does the FBI agent get treated better than a regular police officer?
Better by who, though?
Like, in general, by people, by workplaces?
Not in my opinion. I know Secret Service guys that live in this area. I know FBI agents. I know CIA. I know depending on what kind of case they may be working on, they may get they may get higher treatment than based on what I could get based on the case. Like if something goes down at the airport, they're going to send them through first just because they'll have more technology and more awareness of it. But as far as treatment itself, not really, because everything's pretty much comparable, honestly. It's just they have national clearance and I have local clearance.
I don't know. So are there bonuses or anything attached to performance, like number of reps or anything like that?
Number of reps aren't calculated. And so it gets pretty frustrating, honestly, because you work a case and you work it to a completion and you feel like you did a job well done and you get that satisfaction of getting the job well done. And then afterwards you go to court and it's over with and you don't get any kind of bonus. You don't get any kind of real recognition. And then you start over with the next one. It's like a repetitive hamster wheel. Every now and then the officers will get an award. I know 2 officers got Officer of the Year for a father who kidnapped his infant son, and they were able to track him down and they captured him. So I mean that was like 10 hours worth of work during that shift. They got a plaque for it. No monetary bonus. I mean, it hangs up on the wall. It looks real pretty and shiny, but that's about it.
So as far as like percentage wise, what would you say? What percent are you like actually in the field compared to like doing paperwork?
Patrol guys are in the field 80% of their shift, 20% during paperwork. I have to what I call grade papers because I became a police officer, so I didn't have to do reports and write a lot and analyze people's work, and that's exactly what I do now. I do the exact opposite. So I spend probably 40% of my shift grading papers and the other 60 out in the field itself. And I make fun by saying grading papers, but it's a police document, so everything has to be legit, everything has to be honest. It's public record. It could alter the course of someone's life if a sentence something's in a sentence that's wrong, but I know what they were trying to say, but they're just articulating it right. We got to get that sentence right because that could be the make it or break it to someone's life. You know what I mean? So we do a lot of paperwork, and it goes through me, then it goes through the corporal, and then it goes through the sergeant. So it's a lot of checks and balances. Yep.
Patrol police have to pull over a certain amount of people a day?
That's what she just asked. We don't have a daily quota. We don't have a monthly quota. We don't have a yearly quota.
What's the difference between patrol and police
Same thing, just a different term.
Have you ever heard of the Central Park 5?
Saw it on Netflix.
Being a black man and a police officer at the same time.
I'm sorry?
So what's your opinion on the Central Park 5 being a black man and a police officer at the same time?
I wasn't involved in the case, so I had no outcome, but I do believe that I hold myself in a high regard. If I like to treat people fairly, like I said, I'd make sure a case that we work is done right. So they were juveniles at the time. They should have been called, in that instance, in that situation, they should have been called almost immediately. Parents, and they should have had at least 20 minutes with the child and the parent to have a private conversation in a private room that didn't have any microphones or audio or anything like that before anything happened. And in that situation, they got railroaded. I can't speak for the whole world. I know cases that I deal with, we do not intentionally railroad anyone. I say intentionally because, I mean, you don't know the play on the whole situation, but if I'm aware of it, it's not being railroaded.
Were you traumatized by that situation, even though you weren't in the situation?
Was I traumatized by the Central Park 5? Yeah. Only because I was aware of it before the movie came out. I mean, my trauma level is a lot higher than most because I've seen a lot and heard a lot since. So it's unfortunate, yes. Do I feel sorry for what happened to them in their lives? Yes, I do. I don't have any direct result on what happened to them, but the people that I have a direct result in, that I know I can change that situation or make sure that situation goes appropriately. Okay? Anyone else? No.
So besides some of the things that we've talked about already, like the quota and the misunderstandings there, what other general misconceptions do you feel the public has about the police force?
That it's us against them type of society, which I beg to differ. That it's beat up the whole world and charge the whole world and put tickets to the whole world, when realistically, I can honestly say that in my platoon, in my department, we honestly want to help first. We want to help get services involved, whether it's crisis, whether it's drug and alcohol treatment, whether it's parental guidance, whether it's area on aging. There's people who live in their 90s who don't want to move out of their house, but they can't function anymore. And we instead of arresting them for a codes violation, which we could do, we want to get them the proper treatment. So I think we are treatment based first before we lay down that heavy law. I think that's stigmatized, as if normally when people see a police officer, they automatically think bad day and the worst situation is already happening. But there's a whole storyline behind that situation before it happens most times.
If you're a victim of it, what do you believe the next steps you should take to make sure that cop faces the correct consequence?
So first and foremost, you will file a complaint with their department. You would speak to their supervisor or their chief. Once you file that complaint, it'll be documented. If you feel like you're a subject of police brutality, okay. If you don't feel comfortable going to that police department, then you can go to the Dauphin County CID is what it's called, Central Intelligence Agency of Dauphin County, or you could go to the state police. There's multiple different places you would go. Just like I'll bring it down a little bit. Let's just say that there was a teacher that you weren't feeling comfortable with for whatever reason that reason is. You could go to another teacher, you could go to a guidance counselor, you could go to a principal, you could go to your parents. Your parents would also have those same avenues as well. So that's the same thing on a smaller scale. Okay, does that make sense?
I was wondering how much leeway do officers have when dealing with an issue? Is it more of what, when you say you pull someone over, is it more of your word, or do you keep a lot of what you've been taught? It's hard. Do you understand?
No, go ahead, talk through it. I'll figure it out.
So say someone's speeding and they're over that 26, but they had a reason. Would you I don't know. It's hard to explain. How much leeway about to give? Would you personally, as a cop, would you get in trouble for letting someone go for doing speeding, red lights, stop signs, like, I don't know how to go.
So if someone ran a red light and they instead of just like it was orange, but it wasn't orange, they really ran a red light like it's red now and something like that, and I pulled them over.
You have to, like, it's more your word.
Yeah. I wouldn't say how I feel. I would say how the situation is. If it could have nearly caused an accident, if I've seen almost a kid on a bike almost get ran over, yeah, you're gonna get some paperwork. Yeah, I mean, if it put somebody's life in jeopardy, if it could have nearly caused an accident, or if it was just, and then you look up and no, that's negligence. But if you're legitimate reasons, if you're honest, like I said, karma, I do believe in karma. So it's case by case basis. That's a hard question to answer because I would have to be in the moment. Gotcha. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that it should be a requirement that police officers have to live in the communities in which they police?
Nope, I don't. Because I do, and for work-related purposes, if I get snowed in, they're sending a car to come get me. So for selfish reasons, I can't take off. Or because when I'm off, I want to be off. I don't want my neighbors coming to my house asking me questions. I don't want my neighbors coming to my house because someone parked in their driveway. Don't bother me. It's basically how I am when I'm off. And I feel everyone, when they're off, they deserve to have that time off because you deal with so much while you're working. I know the city of Harrisburg had that. It did not go well because I understand why, so you can better police the community and for tax purposes as well. But it doesn't work good on the police officer's psyche because you're always on red alert. As opposed to, I know officers that live a half hour away, and at least when they go home, they can relax, and they need that downtime as well. What's up?
I think it's a pretty good one. If you're off duty, like you look civilian right now, but you witness somebody do something wrong, but you're off duty, how would you handle that situation?
It depends on what they did and how severe it was. So most times, like I tell everyone, if something bad happens, like one of the football games when a big fight occurred, I'm there as a parent. I'm there as a spectator. Football is my thing. So I see a fight occur, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be the best witness available. So when my department comes and they gotta do what they gotta do, and they're looking around like, who saw it? I got you, call me later. I can tell you what happened. I'm more of a credible witness. If it's something like an active shooter, I'm in it. That's what I get paid to do. Everyone's running that way, I'm running that way.
Do you carry a weapon or no? You carry up to carry a weapon.
We have time for one more question. If somebody wants to ask that last question.
Coming from like a police officer point of view, what are your opinions on like the justice system in general?
The justice system is, in my opinion, old. It's somewhat outdated. It could be revamped. I think it could be looked at with a little less scrutiny on some things and a little bit more scrutiny on other things. I think, like I said, generationally, that getting the right people in the right places, having the right ideas is paramount on changing a lot of things. Certain things they're not going to change in my lifetime because I'm an old guy. I'm on the way out the door. So do things need to change? Yes, I do. I do think so. Will they change? They'll change slowly, but probably not as quickly as you would think is necessary. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we just want to thank him for coming and speaking.